Between the late 1960s and early 1970s, American ethologist John B. Calhoun created a seemingly perfect utopia for mice. Calhoun's predator-free, disease-free enclosure was furnished with limitless food and even an upper level with miniature mouse condos. Essentially, the mice would enjoy all the modern comforts people have come to expect today. But the rodent society, dubbed the Universe 25, would quickly prove to be far from paradise. What was the experiment? To begin the experiment, Calhoun introduced 4 pairs of healthy mice into the enclosure. For the first 104 days, the mice explored their new habitat, marking their territory, and began nesting. Then the population began to increase, doubling every 55 days. Interestingly, even when the population was well under a quarter of the enclosure's capacity, most of the mice still crowded together in select areas. Eating, for example, was a shared activity, so mice would group together during feeding times, even though there was plenty of space to eat by themselves. By the 315th day, the population reached 620 mice. Crowding behavior discouraged mating, heavily contributing to dropping birth rates. Universe 25 would now begin a slow but steady decline. A prominent social ladder quickly took shape. Within the male population, the most dominant mice were characterized by their extremely aggressive behavior. The so-called alpha mice would often engage in wildly violent bloodbaths, proceeding to attack, rape, and even practice cannibalism at the expense of their peers. Disturbingly, these violent outbursts usually had no clear provocation or motive. On the opposite side of the spectrum were the least socially adept mice, who were completely excluded from mating. They spent their time moving between large groups of mice, eating and sleeping by themselves. Occasionally, these mice would also fight one another. Any mice that fell between these groups were rather timid and often became the victims of the violence perpetrated by their more hostile counterparts. As the social roles broke down, the females took on more aggressive attitudes of their own. Taking care of their nests in the midst of such a chaotic domain was no easy task, so many mothers would sometimes act violently towards their own litters. Others would completely withdraw from their motherly responsibilities, ignoring their litters and quitting mating practices entirely. Day 560 marked the beginning of the end, sometimes referred to as the death phase. The spike in mortality rates fluctuated at around 100%, halting population increase altogether. However, the new generation that did survive had grown up in the tumultuous environment that was the Universe 25. These mice had no perception of the normal lives that mice led beyond the enclosure's walls. As explained in Thomas J. Alpin's book, Roadmap to Reality, studies have consistently revealed that an absence of social stimulus and maternal care leads to a high rate of physical and emotional retardation and mortality. In the context of Universe 25, isolation paved the way for a new category of mice that Calhoun called the beautiful ones. These mice were segregated from the other bloodthirsty mice and the violence that plagued the rest of the enclosure. Their subsequently unruffled appearances were the inspiration for their names. Furthermore, being separated from the rest of the Universe 25 mice, the beautiful ones made no contributions to the society. The mice gave no help in mating, mothering, marking territory, etc. Instead, they spent all their time feeding, drinking, grooming, and sleeping. Eventually, the beautiful ones outnumbered the more aggressive mice. Still, rather than mating or creating new roles in Universe 25 society, the beautiful ones continued to exist solely for their physiological satisfaction, with everything provided for them in their enclosure. The paradox of the beautiful ones reveals the self-destructive patterns that emerge with living a life without purpose. Soon, because of the collective indifference towards mating and building a sustainable society, the mouse population began to die out until there were no mice left at all. What are the implications for humanity? The Universe 25 experiment offers insight into the demise of humankind. The beautiful ones in particular show us that individuals will not assume a productive role in society if they do not have proper relationships or role models in the environment they grew up in. Additionally, if there exists no conflict, no danger, or no work to be done in society, its inhabitants, like the beautiful ones, will ultimately lose their purpose in life. Yet, the Universe 25 is not a perfect parallel to humanity. As a more sophisticated species, we have access to science, technology, and medicine which can help us prevent such a dystopia. Having more outlets of creativity and analysis also allow people to find meaning in life, beyond just eating or sleeping. Most importantly, Universe 25 was a manufactured environment. At our current technological standards, we do not have a viable way to replicate Universe 25's conditions. This includes ensuring the end of disease, hunger, or even natural disasters. In the future, as technology advances, the conditions of Universe 25 may become more achievable. Then, we will truly see how different the minds are of mice and men.